Welcome to another live with Twinkl Home Educators. I'm Rachel and we're just going to do a quick 10-minute chat with Hayley from Sparkles and Stretch Marks. So I'm going to invite her on soon, but before I do that, I just wanted to mention that if you are someone that would love to share a little bit about your home ed journey, but the thought of being on a live is just, you don't want to do it, then I will be having a way of you submitting kind of written answers, so keep an eye out for that because I would love to collect as many stories as possible. So I'm going to invite Hayley on now, and time to just bear with the awkward silence while I do that. So we're 10. Oh, hi. Hi, Hayley.
You okay?
Hi, how are you?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you. Just trying to balance the phone.
Yeah, your background is amazing. Are they all Disney headbands?
Or me, Mickey.
Okay. I'm going to get straight into it because I don't want to waste any time. So I'm going to start the timer now. 10 minutes. If we go over, it's not a big deal. But introduce yourself, tell us who you are, who you're home educating, and anything significant that you think we should know about you.
Okay, well, my name's Hayley. I am from Liverpool originally, but I live in Devon now, near Torquay. I educate my 3 children. So they are Tyne, who is 9, Noah, who's 7. They've all just had birthdays, so it's me, and Sailor, who is 6. Tyne actually started school. He did like a term in school. Then the others like home educated throughout. We do have some neurodivergence in the family, and one of my children identifies as transgender as well, which is kind of another reason why we find home education really beneficial, because we don't have to deal with any of the issues that go along with that with school.
Yeah, I was just going to ask that, if it had a bearing on why you home educated. How did you hear about home education in the first place? Because a few people, it just like wasn't on the horizon, and then some people just have thought about it forever. Where do you stand?
I was kind of somewhere in the middle, I suppose. It's something that I had heard about. I used to work in nurseries and things, and a lot of nanny before I had children. So it's something that I knew of from just qualifying in those kind of things, and something that I liked the idea of. But in all honesty, it was something I just didn't have the confidence to go for. I felt like everybody I knew was putting their kids into school. I felt like that's what you do, like, don't question. So I did it, enrolled my eldest in school, and like I say, he did 1 term and it was not suitable for him at all. So push to give it a go, and then because it worked so well for him, like, we found a really nice community locally. There is such a lot of people where we live who home educate. There's so much going on in the area for home education that we were having such a good time, we decided to just keep him out of school, and then it just kind of fell into place with the others as well.
Yeah, the more you do it, the more you want to do it, I think. And my reasons for starting are completely different than my reasons for continuing, but it's just like, it just grows and grows and grows, the reasons for doing it. Can you describe your home ed in 3 words or phrases?
Do you know, since you sent me the questions, I've been thinking about this, and it's the hardest one.
I know. But it really helps get a picture of what people are up to, so... If you can only think of 1 word, we can probably talk for 10 minutes on that word anyway.
I've got 3 words, but so the ones I up with were adaptable, because of kind of the neurodivergence within the family, and also I work from home. I run 3 businesses from home, and I'm the one who does all of the home education. So it has to be adaptable. It has to be ready to be changed like that, depending on moods, depending on what pops up that day that needs to be dealt with. So we flit in between being structured. I like to have a plan. I'm very much that kind of likes to have a plan, but I also know that 9 times out of 10 that plan is not going to happen, like, and it just has to be changed. I would also say child-led. So when I started out, I was completely convinced that we were going to be homeschooling families who does homeschooling, who sits at the kitchen table, does a full day of lessons, gets everything kind of ticked off. I was convinced that that's what we would be. And we ended up being completely the opposite of that. We kind of lean much more towards unschooling. And now we are very much, child-led. So if there's something that they want to learn about, then we will kind of embrace that and go with that as much as possible. I do try to encourage them to do the things that they're not so keen on, maybe, so then we don't 100% fit the unschooling ethos, I suppose. So, yeah, we're kind of somewhere in between the two.
We are too, yeah.
The last word, this was the one that I struggled the most to find a word to fit what I meant. I've come up with egalitarian. I'm not even sure if that's right.
Oh, I like that.
We kind of spend a lot more time focusing on things to do with kind of equality, diversity, kind of human-centered things than we do on kind of traditional school subjects, because that's something that's really important to me. It's really important to me that they kind of have a really wide view of the world, and, you know, just especially where we live, there's not a lot of diversity here, so I want them to kind of be exposed to as much as possible about different religions, cultures, just different ways of life. And also I like to focus a lot on things like politics, because I feel like that was really lacking when I was at school. I want them to understand the world that they are going to have to live and survive and thrive in. So
yeah, I love that you said that, because that for me is like issues of social justice. I get to talk about those things that more and more in schools, so you have to kind of toe a certain line for, and that, like, so my kids are mixed race and my husband's an immigrant, so they're the kind of issues that we kind of navigating through. And yeah, it's really exciting for me. Like, I see the compassion grow in them that I don't know if we would have had the opportunity to talk through all of those different things.
Exactly. And having the freedom to ask their questions and for us to, and it's just, I think it's one of the biggest gifts of home education, that you have the freedom to explore those kind of things. And we definitely spend, I would say, 80% of our time on those kind of subjects, and the maths and the English kind of slot in somewhere in between. Like,
yeah, I love that. Do you have any I know that it's a passion of yours, you can see that through Instagram, like body positivity and LGBT issues, so like I know that kind of sometimes just overflows if you're the parent into what you talk about, but kind of in terms of planning or thinking through things, how do you do that? What does it look like kind of practically on a day-to-day or week-to-week basis to highlight those issues of equality and compassion?
One of the most simple ways that we do it, which I didn't really kind of start doing until I'd say probably 2020, was letting them watch News Round. I know that sounds like really basic, but it brings up a lot of kinds of issues that are going on in the world, especially recently with like the war in Ukraine and things like that. That's been covered on News Round. That will then start them off asking different questions, and it just kind of then snowballs. And once they start asking a question about that, that will lead into something else, and then you'll be talking about the social justice aspects of things. I tend to talk to them just about things that have cropped up that are of interest to me. Me and their dad kind of have these conversations a lot in the house anyway, so they pick it up from us and they ask questions based on that. So it kind of just comes about quite naturally. But I do think that my son gets a week junior as well. That is great. That brings up a lot of current issues and things, so then his questions lead on from there. So yeah, kind of how we do it.
Because I know, especially when like the war in Ukraine started, a lot of people were like panicking about how they can talk to their kids about things. And the fact is that some people have already done it for us sometimes, so we can have someone else start the conversation. And then I don't know, it's the whole thing with home ed that we're learning along with our children, and sometimes we don't know the answers, and sometimes the answers are like, yeah, it's horrible and I don't know how to process that. And like, I love doing that with my kids. It's hard, but that's where I see like the growth, rather than like the phonics is exciting to see them learn to read, but like seeing the compassion grow in them is really, I love that.
It is. Yeah, seeing the people that they're going to become and what they think is important and what is in them. Like, that's the biggest part of it for me. Like what you said, it's so important for a child to know that just because someone is an adult, they don't necessarily have all the answers, and that there is always a clear answer, that things are not black and white, that there's grey areas. And I think all of that is so important.
Yeah, my mind, like from starting homeschooling, home education to now, like I've changed my opinion on so many things, and I've been challenged on so many things that have made me think like, oh yeah, I had it wrong. And it's not a comfortable thing, but it's like a good thing to go through, and for them to know that it's okay to get it wrong and to learn from it.
I actually found that I used to struggle with that quite a lot, and I used to be really ashamed and embarrassed if I'd got something kind of wrong, or my thought process on something hadn't been thoroughly thought through. And I think that is kind of a hangover from school, because it's not good to get wrong. Like, whereas because our kids are having that bit more freedom to be able to get things wrong and to see that as a learning opportunity and a growth opportunity. I love that.
Yeah, for me it was like I had this like idea that certainty was where you wanted to be. Like I love being able to answer my kids' questions and kind of priding myself on being able to like put it in childlike words and like be 2 steps ahead of them. And then I realized that that's not what I want to be. That's not what I want them to be. So yeah, I've had to do a lot of unlearning in order to help them learn as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. What have you, so there's some of the joys of home ed. Is there anything that you've found a struggle or what that's been difficult for you?
Yeah, there's loads of struggle. I find it a struggle most days, if I'm honest. Like, I would not ever be somebody who says that home education like comes really natural to me. I have a lot of anxiety about, am I doing it right? Are we doing enough? Are they learning enough? Is it okay that like my 7-year-old isn't fluently reading yet? Like all of these kind of anxiety creep in all the time, every single day, no exaggeration. I will have some kind of panic every day that I'm failing them somehow, that things are not going right, that we need to change everything that we're doing. That is one of the hardest parts for me, is overcoming that fear and anxiety, as well as sorry if I've gone over the 10 minutes already.
No, keep talking, don't worry.
Yeah, so that kind of dealing with that, also just being able to trying to learn to juggle everything as well as running businesses from home. I find that really hard. I find it hard to get the balance right between me having time to do my work things, them having time to do all of their social things. Like, it's a constant juggle, and that I think is the hardest part, really. And letting go of all of the kind of school-based expectations that I have based on.
So I know where I found out about you was through other home editors in your community. So I know there's a big community there, or a strong community there. Is that something that helps with that anxiety and the wobbles and stress of it all?
Absolutely. I think you probably found me through Lorna, who
Lorna connects a lot of people.
Yeah, I know. I love Lorna. Yeah, definitely. I think that's the biggest thing I would say to people who are new to kind of home education, is that it's so important to, like, I know it's a real cliche, but to find your tribe, because you know, people on social media are not always completely honest. I am very guilty of looking at other people's home ed days on social media and thinking, oh my god, they've done so much, we haven't done anything like that, we haven't done that much. And it all snowballs from there. So finding real, honest people around you who are going to talk to you about the fact that, you know, they also feel like they're not getting it right. They have these worries as well. Like, I think that is so, so important. And finding people that you can just be honest with and message and say, do you know what, I really am not feeling it today. I want to send them back to school, and then not say, oh, well, you know, I actually just know that you just need to vent that, and you don't really need. And
this is the one thing that's united all of the interviews so far, is the idea of community and how we need that to get through. And it saddens me that I know some people haven't found their group of people yet. So I'm hoping that these kind of chats are a way of being people for other people, if that makes sense.
Definitely, because we're really lucky, like you say, where we live, there is a big team of home educators. We've got a lot of like real life friends where we can go and I can have this chat. But I know people through my Instagram who are living in very isolated areas who don't have that. And I think that must be so difficult. So I think Twinkl kind of creating that online is really needed and really great.
Yes, and thank you so much for being part of it. Our time has gone. But thank you so much for being part of that, like opening up the conversation. And I presume that you're fine for people to head over and ask you more questions over on your Instagram.
Yeah, I don't often talk about home ed on this Instagram. I have like a private account for that, but this week I thought, as I'm doing this, I will talk a little bit more about it this week.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, I'll keep an eye out for that then. Thank you so much. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you.
Bye.